Cindy, how you doing? Good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to convene the meeting of the Watertown Board of Education. Today's date is Monday, April 26th. I ask that we all please rise as Mr. Murkowski leads us through the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Davidson?
Ms. Hosky?
Here.
Mr. McCuskey?
Here.
Mr. Flaherty?
Here.
Ms. Rinaldi? Ms. Wilk?
Here.
Ms. Crotty?
Here.
Ms. Rosa?
Here.
Ms. Eastman?
Here.
Mr. Malaguti?
Here.
And Ms. Lindstrom?
Here.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson. Just to note that Mrs. Rinaldi is at the wake of a dear friend who passed away. She wishes she could be here. For those that are attending virtually, I do have the virtual both on my computer and we can see you on the overhead screen. If for any reason there's a problem with the sound, please write it in the chat and we will try to pay attention to that and pause when we need to. This evening, we are thrilled to welcome our award-winning students here this evening. The Board of Education is proud to recognize 5 Watertown Public School students. Each of these students are being honored for receiving the Superintendent's Award, sponsored by the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents. This Student Recognition Award is given annually to a limited and select number of students in districts across the state of Connecticut. The CAP Student Award recognizes students whose accomplishments and contributions to their school and community go beyond academic achievement, service, and leadership, making them role models for other students. With our first honoree this evening, Mrs. Wilk.
Yes. Congratulations to Harrison Gowell. Harrison is an outstanding 8th grade student at Swift Middle School. He is a member of the National Junior Honor Society and participated in the following clubs: Watertown Oakville National Junior Honor Society, Watertown Oakville Adolescent Heroes, Student Council, Leo Club, Yearbook, and Select Choir. Harrison is very talented in the arts and has participated in a variety of week-long musical productions. He is also the first youth member participating on his church's music committee. Harrison volunteers at his church and supports multiple sclerosis and autism awareness events. Harrison also loves skateboarding, building skateboards, biking, and walking his dog.
Congratulations to Harrison. If you're here this evening, please come forward. Congratulations. Once we've recognized all of our honorees this evening, we will pause for a brief photograph so that we can capture that moment for everybody. With our next honoree, Mrs. Eastman.
Congratulations to Kaylin Hillian. Kaylin is an exceptionally motivated 8th grade student at Swift Middle School. She is a member of the following clubs: National Junior Honor Society, Peer Leaders, and Swift Band. She plays field hockey and is captain of the Swift's basketball team. Kaylin dances and is involved in athletics, including soccer, basketball, lacrosse, and AAU for Del Mar. As a North End Recreation Basketball Organization member, Kaylin won a national contest sponsored by Nike and the WNBA. She attends church and volunteers at the homeless shelter, clothing drives, and charitable events. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Kaylin. Congratulations. With our next honoree, Mr. Malaguti.
Congratulations to Morgan Bennett.
Morgan is an outstanding 12th grade student at Watertown High School and has actively participated in many aspects of the Watertown High School community. She is a member of the National Honor Society and World Language Honor Society, and she has been a member of the Future Business Leaders of America Club. During her time at the high school, Morgan has volunteered for over 75 hours at John Trumbull Primary School. Outside of success in the classroom, Morgan played for the girls' soccer team, and she has been a 4-year member of the girls' tennis team, where she was named Rookie of the Year in the 9th grade and as a captain during her senior year. Morgan was named the Science Department Student of the Month in 10th grade, and she was presented with a Bosch and Lomb Honorary Science Award as a senior. Morgan also maintains part-time employment in addition to all of her other activities.
And I believe this evening, Morgan is online with us.
Congratulations, Morgan. Okay, and with our next honoree, Mrs. Hoskin.
Congratulations to Natalie Lindstrom. Natalie is an exceptionally motivated Watertown High School 12th grade student. She is an active participant in many aspects of the Watertown High School community. She was selected to serve as the Board of Education student representative this year. She has also been a 4-year member of Student Council and class officer, a member of Link Crew, the World Language Honor Society, and the National Honor Society. Natalie is in the top 10% of her graduating class. She has also participated on the girls' swim and dive team and Interact Club, and she was chosen to be an Anti-Defamation League student facilitator last year. Natalie works as an employee at Watertown Parks and Rec for year-round events and as a summer camp counselor. Most importantly, Natalie is a caring, friendly, and dedicated student.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
With our final honoree this evening, Mr. Flaherty.
Noah Ryan, congratulations. There is something about being a part of a big family. There are a lot of Flahertys, and there are some incredibly wonderful Ryans, and I'm so happy to be able to shine the light on you tonight. Noah is an outstanding 12th grade student, an active participant in so many parts of the Watertown High School community. He's contributed to the music department, the theater program as a lead in the fall and the spring, fall play and the spring musicals for the past 3 years, a member of the band council, not a bit surprised, Dad, and by being selected to the Northern Regional Music Festival, the prestigious All-State Music Festival. He's a member of the World Language, Tri-M Music, National Honor Societies, and outside of the classroom, in his spare time, he's currently the captain and a 4-year member of the cross-country team, where he's just excelled. He's also run indoor and outdoor track, participates in so many volunteer activities outside of the high school, including church choir, professional worship band, youth group, Knights of Columbus. My oldest son and your brother Peter went to school together. My daughter Catherine and your sister Mary went to school together. I don't think Jack and Danny lined up. But Noah, this is your moment. And to you, congratulations. Carla and Mark, congratulations on everything that you've done. We're counting on you and Natalie and all of the other people we're honoring tonight. Congratulations.
On a date to be determined, all of our award recipients from Litchfield County School Districts are going to be attending a virtual reception that's hosted by the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents. The virtual reception will include a special video tribute presenting biographies and images of all of the recipients. Congratulations to Harrison, Kaylin, Morgan, Natalie, and Noah. We are all extremely proud of you. Now, I do have to say that this is the first time we've been able to recognize students both virtually and in person since the pandemic hit. And so for us, it's a huge honor to be able to to see you all and to recognize you. This is what we're all here for, to help shine the light on the amazing students in our district, and to see the wonderful things that they're going to do in their future. So normally we would have a wonderful reception with cake. So if you could pretend virtually that at some point, the next time you eat cake, it's from us. And we'd like to capture this moment, if you wouldn't mind coming and standing behind the board with your certificates. We don't want to get too close, so we're just going to have you come behind us. And Mrs. Davidson will take a picture for us, and any of the parents that wish to.
Absolutely.
Board members want to?
Sure.
Okay, first we're going to look straight ahead at Mrs. Davidson.
1, 2, 3. Smile with your eyes. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to look to the left. And then to the right. All right, congratulations, everybody. Moving on to item E in the agenda, we're going to go right back to our award recipient for the report from our student council representative. Natalie?
Thank you. John Trumbull. In math, students continue to work on the place value of 3-digit numbers and operating on numbers within 100 up to 1,000. The next unit will focus on developing and achieving fluency with subtraction within 100 and on achieving fluency with addition and subtraction facts within 20. Students are also introduced to a new type of story problem, comparison problems with a smaller unknown. They end the year thinking about how the strategies they know and use for adding and subtracting 2-digit numbers translate to adding and subtracting 3-digit numbers, represented with place value notation. In reading, students are working on reading nonfiction cover to cover and identifying how authors use text structure to describe a specific event or topic. They have explored how authors use description, compare and contrast, problem and solution, cause and effect, and sequencing to teach new information about a topic. They will then work on stopping and jotting ideas about the topic and share new learning with club members. They will look through many books on the same topic and see how information can go together and create headings with similar information. As a club, they will hold meaningful conversations, make inferences, revise their thinking, and grow ideas in the company of one another. In writing, students have been working hard handwriting opinion letters, keeping in mind a specific audience. Students have chosen a few of their favorite fiction books and are writing their opinions about the characters, pictures, favorite part, cover page, and title. After stating their opinion, they are working hard to use evidence from the text to support their opinion, giving proof to be sure their opinions are well received by their audience. Polk. Before April vacation, Polk Student Council sponsored a Penny War fundraiser. Polk 5th grade students emerged as the victors with negative 10,869 points, and altogether our generous students raised nearly $825 in support of the March of Dimes. Late March also brought the annual Polk School Invention Convention. The judges were so impressed with the creativity and hard work that all participants showed. The inventions this year were the Scribooter, the Magic Mask, Music Muffs, Bunk Box, Wheel of Decision, Soapinator, and Snow Socks. Congratulations to Miles Kellenhauser, Kyle McGuire, and Willa Zaneski, the 3 Polk inventors who are moving forward to the state virtual finals. Polk students enjoyed seeing each of the inventors' presentations and learning more about their solutions to everyday problems. Polk is so proud of all who participated. Last week, Polk kicked off the spring statewide assessments. In-person 5th grade students participated in NGSS testing last week, and plans are underway for administrating the test to virtual 5th graders. Judson, 5th graders took the NGSS assessment this past week and did a great job. The planning for remote learners will be communicated to remote learning families. Thank you to the teachers for administrating these assessments with such ease and finesse. Thank you to the cafeteria staff for putting together a wonderful breakfast for each student. Sbac testing will begin on Monday, May 10th for grades 3 through 5. Information will be sent to parents in the coming weeks. Remote learners will also be taking this assessment remotely. An Sbac Motivation Committee, along with Judson Student Council, are planning some wonderful activities to create excitement for the testing. Judson Student Council celebrated Earth Day by beautifying school grounds. They weeded, edged, mulched, and planted flowers. Thank you to the Student Council members and advisors, Mrs. O'Toole and Mrs. Washburn. There are only a few more days to order Judson yearbooks. If you have any ordering questions, please email Linda at marinoli@watertownps.org. The order deadline is May 1st. Spring portraits will take place on Tuesday, May 4th. If students wish to purchase a package, order forms can be found on Judson's website. Not all students will be getting their pictures taken, only those who purchase a package. Swift. Swift is very honored to have their unified sports team named as the Anne Malafronte Rookie School of the Year. Swift Unified athletes had a successful program last year with several basketball games and the chance to participate in the Middle School Youth Leadership Summit. This year, activities were somewhat restricted, but with the nice weather on the horizon, more events are planned for the spring. Special thanks to the athletes for participating and to Mr. Paranese for coordinating these events. The Swift 8th graders have been reviewing science concepts in preparation for the Next Generation Science Standards Assessment to be taken this week. The students have already taken a practice test and are ready to go beginning tomorrow, April 27th. The Swift Garden Club members met on Thursday the 22nd, which happened to be Earth Day, to put together 3 garden beds in the main courtyard at Swift. The raised beds were built by Swift's wood teacher and will be used to grow herbs and small lettuces to be used in cooking class. All materials were purchased with funds donated by the members of the Swift PTSO. Swift is very grateful for the PTSO's continuing support. Plans are beginning to be put into place for end-of-the-year events. Swift is happy to announce that their band will be playing in the Memorial Day Parade again this year, and the members have plans to begin practicing outside this week. A date for full school trip to Quasi has been set. Setup days are being planned, and final details for graduation will be announced soon. Watertown High School. WHS was so glad to welcome back seniors and sophomores last week, and everyone is settling in well after April break. WHS is working diligently to plan end-of-the-year events such as senior prom, senior picnic, scholarship night, underclassmen awards night, and graduation. More information about these important events will be sent out to students and families in the upcoming weeks. Spring sports are well underway, and students are working hard and enjoying themselves on the fields and on the track for this season. We are thrilled to have athletics back for students this spring and are so proud of our students' efforts in each meet and game. Watertown High School was one of the 12 schools in the whole nation selected to participate in Project Springboard, Reimagining Schools After COVID. This program helps schools plan for better ways of teaching and learning now that we have learned so much in the past year about using technology, engaging students, and assessing students' learning. Some of the most famous and well-known educational experts in the country are participating in this project to assist schools. Lastly, grade 11 students are preparing to take the Next Generation Science Standards Assessment this week. This science assessment is the second of 2 required state assessments for juniors. We wish all grade 11 students the best of luck on this exam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Do board members have any questions? Okay. Moving on to item F, the superintendent's recommendations and reports.
Thank you very much. You'll find in your packet that we have a number of information only as we get ready for our spring season for athletics, and so you'll have them listed there. So my update, it was a super busy week last week, and I would like to give a big thank you to the number of WPS parents as well as Watertown residents and taxpayers who submitted letters as well as shared testimony at the public hearing in support of the BOE recommended budget on Wednesday. It's times like these where our Watertown Public Schools community comes together to rally for our schools, and I'm thankful to everyone who came out in support. Next, I am happy to announce that we will be hosting a closed vaccine clinic for our students of Watertown High School 16 years of age or older, and that'll be on Saturday, May 8th between 8 and 12 p.m. Students under the age of 18 are reminded that they need to come with a parent or guardian or an accompanying adult. And again, this is a decision for students and families to discuss together before moving forward. And at the same time, families are welcome, if they're not able to make the closed vaccine clinic, to go right on to VAMS directly and go ahead and book an appointment for somewhere in the local area. There are some updated COVID guidelines from the CIAC, which came out in my update last week, and that's in terms of the 14-day quarantine period. So the updated guidelines for a shortened quarantine of 10 days applies to student athletes who are close contacts. So any athlete who is COVID positive still is required to complete a 10-day isolation period, and they can return to sports once they've been cleared by a licensed medical provider. However, if you are an athlete and a close contact with no associated symptoms, then you can return to athletics after 10 days of quarantine with the following: a negative PCR test collected on day 8 or later, and confirmation from the school nurse that the negative test result did essentially occur on day 8 or later. And then there's some updates on our website as well for those who are fully vaccinated and or anybody who may have already been COVID positive and in their recovery period. And lastly, this is a short update and just a reminder from our Watertown Fire Marshal that all parents who drop off their students and pick up, that the fire lanes in front of our schools essentially should be clear at all times so that emergency vehicles are able to get in and out and access the building when there is a situation that arises. So if you do find yourself coming to pick up or drop off your students or your children, to please keep these emergency lanes open. Those are my updates for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for clarification, for a while now, the CIAC has had a separate
Yes.
regulations in terms of COVID and contact tracing and quarantining requirements. So they've been different than what our school system's requirements are.
That is correct.
Can you just give the difference between the CIAC now and the school district?
Certainly. So CIAC definitely had their own set of guidelines, just as Chairwoman Karate mentioned, and they were keeping to that 14-day quarantine. So even if our schools were holding a 10-day quarantine, if athletes returned on day 10, they still had to wait an additional 4 days prior to returning to athletics. Just this past week, CIAC released new guidelines to say now you can come back on that day 10 with that PCR test on day 8. So I think a lot of people have been waiting for this, particularly our athletes who want to be in full swing for this season.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to item G, items of discussion. Discussion related to the reinstatement of $150,000 by the town council for fiscal year '22. At the public hearing last week, the town council voted to restore $150,000 of the $500,000 that they originally cut the Board of Education. And Dr. Villanueva is here this evening to present her recommended cuts from that budget.
Thank you. So just as Chairwoman Karate mentioned, tonight I will be sharing my adjusted recommendations for budget cuts for the FY22 year. I do first want to begin by acknowledging again every single one of the employees and people and the families who came out in support last week, and also that each year's budget impacts. As I've mentioned before in some of my presentations, the school budget is ultimately the vehicle that allows our school district to move forward. I also want to thank our administrative team once again for just providing me with context and history of just Watertown Public Schools so that I can make informed decisions carefully and thoughtfully moving forward. And again, you know, essentially it does come down to being the superintendent's recommendations based on the recommendations that we receive from town council. So in having the $500,000 reduced by $150,000, I am proposing that our 3 armed security officers located at John Trumbull, Polk, and Judson be partially restored so that each maintain an overall .8 FTE position. In addition, I am proposing to have 2.0 classroom teaching positions at Judson and Polk be fully restored. This means that the original reductions still stand in terms of instructional supplies, bus routes being adjusted, paraprofessionals, and secretaries, but having that reduction of the $150,000 allows us to bring our security officers up from 0.5 to 0.8 and reduce our 4.5 recommended teachers down to 2.5 teachers to be reduced. Again, this is a hard decision all round, but I am thankful and glad that we are able to bring our security, which is very, very important to our school district, back to that level. And I would like to reassure our families and those in the community that I will work with our administrative team to assess exactly where our key times and places where we definitely need our armed security officers present, and that in times where we don't necessarily have them there, I will work with the administrative team to make sure we have that full coverage so that we have a full security outlook on each one of our buildings. Again, security is one of our number one priorities, if not our number one priority for our school children. So even though I'm not restoring it back to a 1.0, I'm trying to get it back as close as possible. That's where we are.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify, the security was at .5, cutting their hours by 50%.
Correct.
With the original $500,000 cuts. And now you're proposing that we cut the hours by 20%, giving them all .8, and that you would work with your schools to determine what hours they would work. But in essence, it's cutting back 20% of their hours. Is that
Correct. That is correct. And so again, as you mentioned, I will work with the buildings because each building has their own separate needs. They also have a different square footage and layout. So I will work with each of those building administrators. But ultimately, if I could equate 20%, it's ultimately like a morning and an afternoon shift or a day of that nature. So we would somehow, of course, I won't release it here because it's security, but again, I'd work with the administrative team to figure out where that opening is, and we would cover that for the school building.
Okay. And then instead of 4.5, a reduction of 4.5 teachers, you're scaling it back to a reduction of 2.5 teachers, bringing back 2.0.
That is correct.
Okay. And what will that do for the class sizes that we were concerned about at Polk and Judson?
So what that will allow for is for our class sizes to still be manageable. As I was putting forth the original recommendations for the $500,000 cut, 4.5 teachers would have immediately impacted a number of classrooms to go up to those class sizes of 24 and 25. And as I had mentioned in previous presentations, we are constantly looking at enrollment. And so right now we have numbers where, I call them kind of break numbers, where when you start to hit that upper limit, you may need another section. So whether I had cut a teacher or I had to break a section, I would need another teacher. So to be able to restore 2 more teachers from that original cut, it allows me to navigate that enrollment so that we're trying to keep those class sizes as low as possible. And again, and I know everybody knows this, smaller class sizes benefit everybody, not just the student, not just the teacher, but everybody in the building, and for all of our students with different needs, whether it's general education, special education, or just differentiating in the classroom. And a teacher ultimately has 100% touch point with our students every single day for several hours. And so it was key that I look very carefully at the list to see what the greatest impact would be for our students.
All right, thank you. I'm going to turn it to see if Mr. Murkowski, our Budget and Finance Chair, has any questions or comments he'd like to make at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a lot more to add to what Dr. Villanueva has shared. More anecdotal. Again, I want to thank all of the parents, administrators, staff, teachers that came out to speak on Wednesday evening. I hope everybody can appreciate that none of these decisions are easy. Certainly not taken lightly, and we certainly hope that the community will come out on May 18th for the referendum, please continue to ask questions of what to expect. And, that's what we're here for. We're hoping that this will change in the future and we can return these positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murkowski. Mrs. Rosa, do you have any comments or questions for the superintendent on the cuts?
No, I do not at this time. I think everything was clear, and I feel that the board is doing a wonderful job in getting all the cuts done.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosa. Do any board members have any questions or comments related to the cuts at this time? Mr. Flaherty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, just a comment. Whether it's the morning or the beginning or the end of the day, at some point, we all sit down at the kitchen table, look across that table at our family, and probably think about, what are we going to do about the kids? What are we going to do about mom and dad? How are we going to get through? And this has been a year where we've all been kind of clobbered in a lot of different ways. The proposal before us is less of a cut than we originally thought, and that's a positive thing. And we stand here in 2021 on the shoulders of at least 6, 7 more years of budgets that have step by step by step built the foundation of the Watertown Public Schools. And this year's gonna tighten the belt a little bit more maybe than we wanted to, but I just want to salute the partnership we have. And I think it was, Mr. Malaguti mentioned it, and I think we heard it in some of the testimony at the high school last week. There's a partnership. The faculty, the administrative team, the staff and the leadership, the superintendent, the board, the town council, the most important part are the voters. And we heard some moving, some authentic testimony at the hearing last week that made a difference. If anybody doubts that speaking up can make a difference, if anybody wonders or scratches their heads, it may not be what any one of us individually or even collectively on this board might want. The people spoke with moving authenticity and made a difference. And now we move on to the May 18th vote. My hope, and I join those here tonight, that I hope that we can clear that hurdle and that we can continue to do the work that we do every day as a volunteer board. More importantly, the professionals who are here, who work in this building every day, work with you, Dr. Villanueva, and the people in our school system, to continue. Maybe it's a smaller step forward, but continue to keep walking on forward. So I thank the people who sharpened their pencils and did this, thank the people who spoke out so movingly, and hopefully we can all work together for success at the referendum. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments related to the cuts as they're proposed? Okay, I'd just like to echo Mr. Flaherty's comments when it comes to the collaboration. You know, our town manager, Mark Ramo, chair of the town council, Marianne Rosa, and her entire town council, they had a very difficult job to do. They restored $150,000 of their original cut because of the community members that came out and spoke, and I am very grateful for that. We could be sitting here, as you said, in a much worse position. So with that, I will close this part of the conversation if there are no other comments. Okay, moving on to item B, non-renewal of non-tenured teachers. Connecticut state law requires that non-tenured teachers whose contracts are not being renewed shall be notified in writing prior to May 1st of each year, following the board's approval. These letters have to be sent based on a possible reduction in force before knowing the results of the townwide budget referendum, in order to comply with the state deadline of May 1st. The board has the authority to immediately rescind the non-renewal letters at a later date if there is no reduction in force. Dr. V, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope, that is pretty much how non-renewal works and non-tenure works in the state of Connecticut. And at this point in time, I've had a chance to work with the administration to touch base with each one of those teachers that this would impact, and we are moving forward from there.
And for board members who aren't familiar with it, this is something we have to do on a yearly basis every year. Our budget timeline and the townwide referendum is not before the deadline, so we have to send the letters before we know whether or not the budget passes at referendum. Are there any questions on that? Okay, we'll move on to our first round of public participation. Do any members of the virtual community wish to address the board this evening? If you do, please unmute yourself and state your name. Okay, seeing none, I'd ask that any members of the public here this evening wish to address the board, please, you may go to the podium. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item I, communications. There are no communications to report on behalf of Secretary Rinaldi. Item J, committee reports. Policy and Labor, Mrs. Wilk.
Yes, just that the Board of Ed negotiations team is working on the contracts right now.
Thank you very much. Mr. Murkowski, Budget and Finance.
Since Dr. Villanueva gave her revised recommendations, there's no further report at this time.
Thank you. There is nothing from facilities. And back to you, Mr. Murkowski, for governance and community engagement.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. I have a brief report this evening. On Tuesday, May 18th, 2021, residents of Watertown and Oakville will have the opportunity to vote in the townwide referendum. You will be asked to vote on both the town budget and the school budget. Both budgets must pass in order for them to both pass. So if one fails and the other passes, they both fail. And in this case, failure really is not an option. That message could not have been illustrated any clearer than at last week's public hearing. Members of our community showed up in full force, submitting written testimony and speaking from their heart on matters important to them. They shared their mutual concerns over security cuts, class sizes, programming, instructional supplies, social and emotional learning, enrichment, and student mental health. Their values align with the school district's. They also pleaded for their jobs. Members of our own community, 271 of them are residents of our town. They work for Watertown Public Schools, and they make a difference in the lives of all of our students every day. It is heartbreaking that as a result of budget cuts, some will lose their jobs. So now we must do everything we can to protect any further loss. We can't allow anything else to be taken from our budget, from our students and our staff, because if the budget does fail to pass at referendum, that is what will happen. We need those with the power to vote to be there on referendum day. We need your support in this process. So please vote on May 18th to support both the town and the school budget, and encourage your friends and your neighbors and family members to do the same. Moving on to item L, action items. Consideration to approve the non-renewal of non-tenured teachers. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board approve of the notification of the non-renewal of non-tenured teachers in order to be in compliance with state law.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Murkowski. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item 2, consideration to approve the revised fiscal year 22 budget. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the revised fiscal year 2022 Board of Education budget totaling $48,089,863, inclusive of the $350,000 in cuts as presented this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Murkowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilk. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item M, future agenda items and board member comments. Do board members have any agenda items they'd like to suggest or comments to make at this time? Okay. Moving on to the last round of public participation. Do any members of the virtual public wish to address the board this evening? And do any members of the public here wish to address the board this evening? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned. The time is 8:09. Thank you, everybody.